and welcome to the meeting number 3 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Environment. And we are here to study the zero emission vehicles. And today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of September 23rd, 2020. And the proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. To ensure an orderly meeting, I'd like to outline a few rules to follow. Members may speak in their in the official language of their choice, and interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. For members participating in person, proceed as you usually would when the whole committee is meeting in person in a committee room. Keep in mind the directives from the Board of Internal Economy regarding masking and health protocols. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you are on the video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the Proceedings and Verification Officer. A reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed to the chair. When you're not speaking, please mute your mic. So today we have four witnesses before us. We have the Department of Environment, the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Transport and Industry. In light of the tightness of time and the fact that the witnesses have already presented their speaking notes, I will deem that their opening statements are read into Hansard. And with that, we will start with Monsieur Godin. Vous êtes la première parole.
You have the floor.
Monsieur Godin, j'ai écrit en français.
Mr. Godin, I wrote in French what I'm telling you, but I'm looking at the clock, and before I give you a warning on time, you will have a 30-second warning. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the witnesses who are here, who are very patient this afternoon. Reading the documents that you sent ahead of your presentation, I have a question. I will put a very precise question to you. This is a question for the 4 departments. Can you tell me that Quebec and BC represent 78% of all the electrical vehicles sold in Canada?
Réponse rapide, s'il vous plaît.
Please answer quickly.
You want who to start? Anyone? Monsieur
Anyone.
Godin? Anyone. The witnesses, can you please start? Who wants to go first? Ms. Nichols, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I can confirm that as of September 30th of this year, the majority of zero-emission vehicle sales have occurred in Quebec, BC, and Ontario. The figures we have are 48% in the province of Quebec, 30%.
Je m'excuse de vous interrompre.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'd like a very specific answer. We're very limited in the amount of time we have. My question is simple. Can you confirm that 78% of electric vehicles bought this year were bought in Quebec and in BC? Yes or no?
48% in Quebec, 30% in BC, 17% in Ontario are our most recent figures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci.
Ms. Ryan, would you like to answer?
Madame la Présidente, je vais interrompre.
Madam Chair, I'm going to go in another direction. I just got the confirmation that it was 78%. Thank you, Ms. Nichols from the Transports Department. The goal of this study is the feasibility of federal legislation for zero-emission vehicles. Several programs have been implemented, and I'd like to know how these programs that were implemented were planned and studied in order to maximize their impact. We have to work all the while respecting provincial and territorial jurisdictions. And did you consult provinces and territories? And if you did, which ones?
La question,
It's to the first person who can answer my question.
Ms. Nichols, would you like to take that question?
I can confirm that we have a federal, provincial, territorial zero emission vehicle working group that has been meeting for a number of years, and it meets to discuss best practices and lessons learned on how to increase the uptake of zero emission vehicles.
Monsieur Godin, est-ce que vous posez une autre question?
Did you have another question? That consultation, could you identify the provinces that took part in it?
All provinces are members of this working group.
et c'était
And they were representatives of the different departments of transport or from other departments?
Of ministries of transport and ministries of environment.
maintenant.
Now, I forget Clean Energy Canada. Since this government has been in power, it has implemented different programs in order to reach very specific goals. We're talking about 10% in 2025, 30% in 2030, and 100% in 2040. Clean Energy Canada confirms in September 2020, that these goals will not be met, which is also the case for Paris targets. Do we have the necessary tools in order to reach these goals, and what will be done immediately? And as an added question, why not be inspired by Quebec and British Columbia, which represents 78% of electric vehicles sold? I think that these two provinces could be references that could help the Canadian government in order to reach the goals that were set by the Department of Transportation. Madam Nichols.
Try this one as well, Madame la Présidente.
Oui.
So certainly Canada has set very ambitious ZEV sales targets, 10% 2025, 30% in 2030, 100% in 2040. We are making progress. In 2018, we were at 2% of zero emission vehicle sales across the country. In 2019, we were at 3%. The first half of 2020, we are at 3.4%. And since the launch of the incentives for zero emission vehicles program, we have seen sales increase by 25% in the first year. So we are making progress. However, we are continuing to assess progress to determine whether additional measures are required to meet these targets.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Longfield for 6 minutes.
S'il vous plaît, un point d'ordre.
Point of order, please. Yes, Madame Posé? Yes. I'm sorry. If I understand correctly, I thought we were going to speak to each expert and ask questions one person at a time. If I understand correctly, I will only have 2 minutes. 2 minutes and a half.
No, excusez-moi. You have 6 minutes according to the routine proceedings that we adopted in the first meeting. You and the NDP both will have 6 minutes in the first round. And you can ask any witness. Monsieur Godin chose Ms. Nichols, but you can choose whoever you want. And now it's Mr. Longfield's turn to ask the witness. Mr. Longfield, for 6 minutes.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. I'd like to start off with Clean Energy Canada. Great report. Looks like the think tank is doing a lot of really good work that we're going to benefit from in our report. One thing I was looking for was There's a program, the Scrap It program in British Columbia, for taking vehicles off the road and helping to get new vehicles onto the road. Did you do any work on whether a program like Scrap It that provinces run would help to stimulate the purchase of zero-emission vehicles?
Mr. Longfield, to whom specifically is this question?
I said to Clean Energy Canada at the start of my question.
Okay. There's Helen Ryan from Department of Environment, there's Department of Transport, and there's Department of Natural Resources and Department of Industry. Which one do you want?
I'm sorry, I had a report from Clean Energy Canada that I was
they
referring
have.
to.
Yeah.
So I'll then switch over to, or actually, if I could, on environment and climate change, I know this is a provincial program, but have we looked at provincial programs and how we might support them on taking vehicles off the road?
To Environment Canada, Madame Ryan, would you like to answer the question, please?
Yes, sorry, I was getting myself off mute. So what I can say is there has been work done to look at programs such as BC's Scrap It program, and I'll turn to my colleague at Transport Canada for further information with respect to assessments around Scrap It program.
Thank you.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes, thank you, Madame la Présidente. Certainly, we are aware of BC's Scrap It program and of the success it has had in removing older vehicles from the road. And as I mentioned earlier, we are continuing to look at potential additional tools that could help us to meet our zero-emission vehicle sales targets. I know that my colleagues at Natural Resources Canada and Innovation, Science and Economic Development may have some additional information on such a program that they may wish to share.
Madame Vieira?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. So yes, this is one of the programs, one of the instruments that we have been looking at and seeing how it can work together with the instruments and with the programming that is currently in place. So a Scrap It program predominantly is used to accelerate fleet turnover. So certainly if that is the government's objective, if that is to try to get consumers making a purchase decision in advance of what they naturally would have, then those are instruments that can be very effective. However, if what we're trying to do is help to incent simply the vehicle purchase, a ZEB vehicle purchase, then incentives are also very effective. So it's really important to understand what is the ultimate objective. Is it to purchase more zero-emission vehicles or to accelerate
Rappel au
the
règlement,
pace
Madame la
at which...
Présidente.
Thank you.
Madame la Présidente, rappel au règlement.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair? Can I speak? Thank you. The interpreter just said that she cannot interpret. She just mentioned that she cannot interpret because the department representative does not have the necessary tools to communicate, and I would like to have the interpretation. Can we please find a solution?
Wait. I'll just let Alexander respond to it. Alexander?
Oui, bonjour, Madame Vieira.
Hi, Ms. Vieira.
A little further, it's because we're having popping sounds when you're speaking. So if you could just move it a little further from your mouth, I think that should be okay. And if you could just answer again, I think Mr. Godin will have the interpretation.
I apologize. Can we try that again? Is that better?
Yeah. Monsieur Godin, c'est bien? Oui? Okay, merci. Continuez.
So as I previously noted, it is really important to understand the objective of the measures that we would put in place. Something like a Scrap It program is very effective in accelerating fleet turnover. What that means is it's effective
Madame
in getting...
la Présidente, point of order.
Madam Chair, I have a comment from interpretation. The interpreters are mentioning that the mic is much too close to her mouth and cannot hear. Can we please adjust? All I want is to hear interpretation.
Okay,
maybe go on to
Mr.
my next
Longfield,
witness?
go ahead, go to the next witness. Thank you.
I'd like to reset the clock a bit. I think
Yes,
I've lost
it is
about a
already
minute and a half.
stopped. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. If I could then, and thank you for your answers. If I'd like to go to Ms. Irwin from ISED. Recently, there was the announcement on the Ford Motor Company producing EVs and batteries in Canada at Windsor and Oakville. Fiat Chrysler has an announcement on hybrid hybrid or EVs in Canada. One of the presentations showed the difficulty in obtaining EVs in Canada with the dealerships. Could you comment on whether when these programs will roll out and whether that can help us get more EVs through the dealerships?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Longfield. With respect to the Ford and recent Fiat Chrysler announcements and the investments that they are making as negotiations with the unions came to a close in the last few weeks, certainly, I think one of the things we have to keep in mind, those decisions are very key decisions for the transformation of the automotive sector and in helping Canada reach its overall goals with respect to reduction of GHG emissions. It's important to understand that those particular decisions do take some time to be realized. The time between when a decision is made and for a firm to bring that particular transformation to either the production line or manufacturing line usually takes for about a 4 to 5 year window. So of course there is going to be a bit of a lag until we have that full EV production within Canada, but certainly a significant development in terms of the transformation and the electrification of the sector in Canada.
You've got 30 seconds, Mr. Longfield, if you want to give it.
Thank you. And to Natural Resources, we've been working with the ENVI network in Ontario to get charging stations around the province to try and stimulate the EV use, take that barrier away from it. Could you comment on the progress of that system, please?
Unfortunately, it will have to be done for the next round. We now go to Madame Posé for 6 minutes, Madame Posé.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. My question is for Mrs. Vera. In your document, you talk about the anguish. I'd like to ask you, first of all, we need vehicles. Is your department going to evaluate the possibility of trying to do something with regards to the interpreter? Sorry, but this sound is extremely muted. I'm doing my best. Can your department assess this? I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Madame Posé, are you having?
Que j'ai posé la question. Est-ce que
Wasn't the question heard? For the interpreter, either her microphone is not close enough or there's some reason why it's very muted and I can barely hear what she's saying.
Minute.
Oui.
Madame Posé.
Madame Posé, pouvez-vous parler dans le micro?
À commencer, merci.
Alors, je vais recommencer. Merci. Donc,
So my question is for Mrs. Vera. In her document, she speaks a lot about the anguish that's experienced, but that people want vehicles. So there's 10 American states, there's California, there's Quebec, there's BC. They have zero-emission laws, and they do have vehicles there. Did your department assess the possibility of adopting these types of policies, of laws to solve this issue of lack of supply of vehicles?
Madame Vera?
Yes, as has been noted, we're looking at all instruments to increase the deployment of electric vehicles in Canada. We're looking at how
Pa-
regulatory measures will
Excusez-moi
be used.
de vous interrompre. La traductrice nous dit que Madame Vieira a encore une fois le micro trop près de la bouche. Trop loin, pardon. Trop loin cette fois-ci.
Ms. Vera, you need to move the microphone away from your mouth.
Okay, is this better?
Je pense, oui,
Est-ce que
bon,
est-ce que
oui.
c'est mieux?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we are looking at all measures, regulatory measures, whether that is existing emission standards, mandates, incentives.
C'est l'enfer.
We're looking at all instruments to see how we can increase supply.
Point of order, Madame la Présidente.
Oui, OK. Bon, un moment.
Non,
Oui.
en fait, Madame la Présidente, le problème, c'est que le micro...
The issue is that her microphone is too far and the interpreter can't hear. So she's asking to bring it closer, not too close to her mouth, but at a distance where she can actually hear what's being said.
These mics so that we don't get into trouble. Try keeping it at a distance. Let's test your mic. I thought you tested your mic, but test it again. I've stopped her time, so give it a try. So, and then, Monsieur Godin, vous et Madame Posé, dites-moi quand la traduction est bien ou non. OK? Merci. OK, commencez, Madame.
I apologize. We did test and everything was working fine. How is that? Is that better?
C'est mieux? Non?
C'est trop loin encore. Plus proche.
OK. A little closer.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Oui, Monsieur
Non,
Godin?
l'interprète dit non.
A little closer.
A little closer?
Oui.
How is that? Are you able to hear me
C'est
now?
mieux.
Oui,
Bougez pas.
Okay.
Bougez pas.
Okay.
L'interprète et c'est OK.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
I apologize again. Yes, we are looking at all measures, whether they're regulatory measures, but to ensure that we're supporting the entire value chain. What can increase supply? What can increase consumers' adoption? Enabling measures like infrastructure. We are looking at what combination of instruments it will take in order to increase deployment of EVs in Canada. So yes, we are looking at all instruments.
Madame Posé, vous avez un autre question?
Mrs. Posé, do you have another question? Yes. My question is for Mrs. Ryan. In her document, it stated that the Canadian Act on Consumer Protection dates from 1999, can be reviewed. Environment and climate change does have a legislative ability, and she speaks about heavy and light vehicles. Did the department explore solutions with regards to public policies to respond to this issue, this specific issue, to legislative powers with regards to light and heavy vehicles as well as off-road vehicles?
Oui, merci pour votre question. Alors,
Thank you for your question. As I mentioned in the document, we do have regulations under the Consumer Protection Act to regulate greenhouse gas emissions of heavy and light vehicles. As for the light vehicles, our standards are based on the performance. I don't have the French term. On the LEAP standards, and this includes incentives for electric vehicles and for hybrid vehicles and hydrogen vehicles. So there are standards that have to be met. One of the ways that they can do this is by providing zero-emission vehicles. Okay, I'd like to come back with the regulation on greenhouse gas. John Hudson in BC made a study, and there's a modeling of the failure in reaching the federal objectives. So this regulation under greenhouse gas emissions will not allow us to alone to reach objectives. Do you recognize that in the fight against climate change, the government should create incentives for these buildings to ensure a transition, a quick transition?
Toujours avec Madame Ryan.
Mrs. Ryan, yes, I'm looking at her document. Okay. So yes, as my colleague, Mrs. Vieira, was saying, we note that there's a need to have many elements in place to support an increase in zero-emission vehicles, including incentives, infrastructure, legislation. So the answer is yes.
Collins for 6 minutes.
Thank you so much. Ms. Vieira mentioned in the written statement that it's essential to support consumers through the entire consumer continuum. And Ms. Nichols wrote about the initiatives to help meet Canada's ZEV sales targets. And I'm curious what work, if any, has been done to support the purchasing of used EVs, as in secondhand electric vehicles. For many Canadians, purchasing a new vehicle, whether it's gas or electric, isn't an option with the high cost of rent, childcare, medication, other essentials. 50% of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck, and they often turn to secondhand vehicle purchases. What are we doing to support these people and to ensure that electric vehicles aren't just for those who can afford tens of thousands of dollar purchase?
Ms. Collins, to whom? Direct your question to easier.
I said Ms. Nichols and Ms. Vieira, either one.
Okay. Ms. Nichols, would you like to go first? Ms. Vieira, keep your mic ready. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madame la Présidente. Certainly, while the incentives for zero emission vehicles program does currently focus on new vehicle sales, we certainly recognize that there's an opportunity to make zero emission vehicles more accessible to all Canadians. We also capture the used zero emission vehicle market, and this was something mentioned in ministerial mandate letters. About 60% of vehicles acquired on an annual basis is done through the secondary market. So Transport Canada is currently exploring options to expand the program to include used vehicles.
Thank you for that. And that's good. Following up on Mr. Godin's question about targets, we did receive information from Clean Energy Canada describing how Canada is not on track to meet its target of selling 100% zero emission vehicles by 2040. They actually quoted Transport Canada in their briefing. And the quote was, without any further action, Canada could achieve zero emission vehicle sales of 4% to 6% of all new light duty vehicles purchased by 2025 and 5% to 10% by 2030. It appears that currently we are not on track to meet these targets. We're not on track to meet our Paris targets. Ms. Nichols, you had mentioned that we're exploring all options, but really, is there going to be a plan that really outlines how we're going to meet the 10% by 2020, 20% 2030, 50% 2040, and 100% by 2050? If I got those right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I mentioned earlier, we are seeing good progress towards targets. We started at 2% of sales in 2018. We reached 3% in 2019. We are at 3.4% of sales in the first half of 2020.
Ms. Nichols, just sorry to interrupt. I did hear those before. When you're talking about good progress, if Transport Canada is saying that we're currently projected to only reach 4 to 6% by 2025 and 5 to 10% by 2030, this doesn't seem like good progress to me.
Yes, with the measures currently underway, we are hoping to see better performance than those previous numbers. So we are tracking closely the progress made. In budget 2019, 700 million was allocated to various measures to increase the uptake of zero emission vehicles, not only the purchase incentive program, but also additional funding for infrastructure, as well as some other measures. So we do continue to assess progress and to determine whether additional measures are needed.
Thank you so much. It was mentioned that Environment and Climate Change Canada has legislative authority to regulate sectors under the Canadian Environmental Protection Act, CEPA, and they've implemented 6 regulations under CEPA. CEPA is over 2 decades old. It's in desperate need of modernization. Has there been or are there any current plans to develop regulations under CEPA that require automakers to achieve Canada's sales targets, a national zero emission vehicle standard for passenger vehicles? And probably to ECC.
Yes, Madam Chair. So we're currently undertaking a midterm review of our light duty vehicle regulations. The current regulations go out to model year 2025. They are aligned with the US EPA regulations, and we're undertaking a review because when we first set those regulations, they were viewed by industry to be quite ambitious. Since then, the US has rolled back their standards and has put in place provisions that go out to model year 2026. We're finalizing our midterm review to determine what action is needed in a Canadian context, in context of our current regulations. We expect that work will be completed in early 2021. With respect to our exceeding or our 2030 targets and getting to net zero by 2050, we're also evaluating what is needed with respect to the transportation sector, including for light duty vehicles, heavy duty vehicles, and off-road
Thank you.
off-road vehicles.
You have only 30 seconds.
That's okay.
Okay.
I think Ms. Irwin in her statement had mentioned the Innovation and Skills Plan and the Strategic Innovation Fund. Just wondering if there's work going towards skills development, training, and transition for auto sectors workers who have lost their jobs and want to work in electric vehicle production.
Sorry, but no time for response. We now go to the second round for 5 minutes. Mr. Redekop, you have got 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. And to all of the witnesses today, thank you for providing your written comments first. That really helps things out a lot. I want to focus my questions on heavy-duty truck equipment, Class 8 vehicles, semi-trucks, or commonly known as. To Mrs. Irwin, has your department done internal studies on the feasibility of zero-emission heavy-duty engines for Class 8 trucks?
One moment, it just seems to take me a while to find my unmute button. Sorry about that. Specifically, to answer your question very directly, no, our department has not undertaken studies to look at the feasibility related to your question with the heavy duty trucks. What we have been doing in ISED is through our programs such as the Strategic Innovation Fund, engaging with producers, part manufacturers, and others across the spectrum of light duty vehicles, heavy duty vehicles to see where we can support and incentivize research and development as well as technology development for lightweight, reduction, fuel efficiency, et cetera, a number of elements there to help meet those targets. But no, we have not undertaken such a study.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Nichols, wondering about for the transport sector, if there are going to be similar incentives or subsidies to encourage the switch over to a lower carbon fleet.
Yes, certainly we are aware that the heavy duty vehicle sector is a very significant source of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. Of emissions from the transport sector, it accounts for 35% of those emissions. So certainly an area that needs to be addressed. There are a number of challenges and barriers that are unique to this sector. Certainly, one is the significant cost of the purchase of these vehicles. Another is that the technology is still very much in a development phase. While there are more and more models coming online, particularly for the return to base segment and shorter haul, there still remains a significant technology gap for long haul heavy duty vehicles. So certainly barriers that need to be addressed across the spectrum. There's also the question of the availability of fueling infrastructure and also development of necessary codes and standards. So we continue to look at all of these areas. And at this point, it would be premature to comment on potential solutions that the government may choose to bring forward. I
might just ask further to that with CUSMA and other international agreements. Are there going to be difficulties trying to subsidize or to encourage transitions? In fact, could that actually be even illegal under these treaties?
Certainly, the heavy duty vehicle regulatory frameworks are highly integrated between Canada and the US. I couldn't comment on barriers from a trade perspective, though I would have to defer to experts in our international trade department.
Okay. I think if I know the Canadian Trucking Alliance has approached Environment Canada to create a working group to work together to develop a roadmap for decarbonization of the trucking industry. And I guess for Mrs. Ryan, wondering if there's any steps that have been taken in order to create such a working group.
I'm going to defer the question to my colleague, Mark Fiorio.
Yes, hi, Mr. Chair. So I'm not aware that there's been direct work to create a working group. However, there's a number of measures being considered under the heavy-duty regulations to look at how ways to decarbonize and working with other departments to see what is the combination of measures that will accomplish this. There are some programs that have been put in place by provinces looking at retrofit of the existing fleet. So say energy-saving devices like skirts on trucks and deflectors and tires. Those are the main measures that improve the efficiency of the current fleet.
So are you saying that there has been no discussions to create a working group to get industry players in line with this, to get all the people at the table to help develop these types of regulations?
30-second answer, please. Yes or no?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Redcar. We now go to Mr. Sani for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to start off with a question for Natural Resources Canada. One of the things that I've been reading about is there's some consumer anxiety when it comes to range anxiety in terms of how far the battery will last, especially in the winter. Are they going to have enough of a charge? And I know that Natural Resources Canada is undertaking a mass infrastructure program for mass EV adoption. How are you calculating? What is your thinking on that being one of the barriers for more adoption in terms of the range anxiety? What specifically are you, what proposals do you have to sort of limit that anxiety?
Thank you for the question. How's the sound? I've changed my equipment. Good? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Yes, range anxiety absolutely is a barrier to deployment. That is why Natural Resources Canada is spending over $300 million on 2 infrastructure programs to ensure that Canadians can get coast to coast if driving their EV. So in the coast to coast network, we are looking at having chargers every 65 kilometers on both sides of the highway. And the reason why we picked 65 kilometers, and it is very much within the international standards for EV charging, is because even some of the lower technology vehicles have a range of at least 65 kilometers. Now, many vehicles are well over 300 kilometers per battery charge, but we wanted to ensure that there was quite frequent charging along the highways. In 2019, we received an additional $130 million to get charging much closer to where Canadians work, live, and play. It is really important to note that the lion's share of charging happens at home. Right. The second most frequent charging happens at workplace. Then you may think about highways and more public places. That is why in our charging program, we are addressing all of those. We're addressing the highways, we are addressing having it at home, having it in public places, having it in workplace.
Thank you. The next question is for Transport Canada. As you're well aware that there was a recent report that was given to your department, and one of the Dunsky report, energy consulting report, and one of the things that they found, and this question is mainly about supply, that the supply has actually been reduced by 24%, and the supply is basically in 2 provinces. And Madame Posey touched on this, and because I think that we need to change some of our policy direction. When you look at BC, you look at Quebec, you look at California, you look at 10 other states, even China, they're adopting ZEV standards to make sure that they increase supply. And part of that is to give them certain credits which they can trade or they can keep and sell to other companies. How are we going to incentivize companies to increase supply when it's already being done? Why are we not trying to sort of make this pan-Canadian in some sort of way?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly, there is low inventory of some zero-emission vehicle models at Canadian dealerships. But despite that, we still have seen quite good uptake of the incentives for zero emission vehicle program across the country, even in provinces that do not have regulations or mandates for sales in place. We've seen significant increases. For example, in Saskatchewan in 2019, we saw sales increase by 95%. In Manitoba, they were up by 71%. In Alberta, up by 53% from 2018 numbers. That said, we know that we need a greater diversity of models in Canada to meet the needs of Canadians living in all types of communities and situations. So that's certainly something that's at the top of our minds. And in terms of supply, we do recognize that that's an important element of making sure we do meet our sales targets. And so as I've said, that is why we continue to look at what additional measures would help us to achieve those. Thank you.
A very brief question.
How much time do I have left?
You got 45 seconds.
Okay, so quick question: Has the Environment Canada thought about the uptick that will be required in electricity consumption as more people are adopting this technology? And Madam Veer was right that 80% of the charging happens at home. The other 20% is either at work or somewhere else. But that charging, if more and more people on a street continually charge more and more, there will be electrical uptake. Have we thought about how we're going to manage that surge in electricity?
A very quick answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so the answer is yes, that is an issue that we are paying attention to and looking at our electricity generation and supply system in order to be able to service the growing demand for electric vehicles.
Thank you very much. We now go for 2.5 minutes, Madame Posé, for 2.5 minutes.
Merci. Alors,
Thank you. My question is for Mrs. Vieira. In your document, you talk about the Canadian hydrogen strategy. The Pembina Institute is calling hydrogen for green hydrogen and not blue or gray hydrogen. Did you take that into consideration? Green hydrogen.
Absolutely, the hydrogen strategy will look at all pathways to hydrogen production. What's really important is not the color. There's actually an international initiative of which Canada is a leading part of that is looking to get away from colors. What's really important is the carbon intensity of hydrogen. We can produce hydrogen in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, from natural gas with CCUS that has the same carbon intensity as hydrogen produced from clean power, for example, through electrolysis.
Okay,
What's really important
oui.
is that we focus on clean hydrogen.
Je vais vous arrêter là-dessus, Madame.
I have to stop here, Mrs. Vieira. I only have 2 minutes and a half. Hydro-Quebec can produce hydrogen in Quebec as well. My next question is for Mrs. Irwin. Car manufacturers want to make money, of course. The demand is there, but it's not as high. The only way to raise production would be to mandate a market, and that would require regulations. Don't you agree with that?
With respect to your question as it relates to regulations, I think I would defer to my colleagues in environment and the other departments to answer specifically anything related to that. With respect to production, I think it's a fine balance in terms of our discussions we have with the industry, which is what the ISED's focus is, and understanding where the industry is at. There's a fine balance between the health of the industry, which is a major economic driver within the country, and supporting its transformation over a period of time, and the need to accelerate and to move quicker towards electrification within our transportation sector in Canada.
Oui, vous parlez.
You talk about transition. Sorry, this is over. Your time is up.
Last word today for 2.5 minutes.
Hi there, thanks so much. Maybe just to repeat my last question, it was about the work towards skills development, training, and transition help for auto sector workers who have lost their jobs and want to work in the electric vehicle production industry.
And I believe that one was directed at me, correct, Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With respect to skills development and training for auto workers, other people that are looking to reskill and retrain. It's probably a question best directed at a colleague from Employment and Social Development Canada. Within ISAD, our focus is on industry development, industry support, research and development, and technology. But certainly in building those programs and working with the sector, those considerations do come in terms of what are the benefits brought to Canada, both from an economic and social perspective.
And Ms. Erman, do you have a sense of how many jobs in the low carbon vehicle production sector would be created through the funding, the Strategic Innovation Fund?
I don't have a fulsome number. I can speak to a couple of particular projects, whether they are.
No, that's okay. Could we maybe, if there is that data, get that sent to committee in written form?
I will certainly inquire with my my colleagues around the program.
So some sectors are seeing a downward trend in emissions, but transportation-related emissions have been rising about 8% since 2015. It doesn't seem like we're on track to meet our climate targets or on track to meet our emissions targets within electric vehicles. Even if light-duty vehicles emissions peak and drop, the heavy-duty truck emissions seem to be increasing. When it comes to hydrogen fueling stations, the documents that were provided talked about in metropolitan areas, but not so much in key freight corridors. The focus was more on natural gas refueling. Just wondering, is that just because of the technology that's available now? Wondering why that was the case, and if there are other barriers.
So certainly in the new programming that we got in 2019, we are looking at hydrogen refueling along freight corridors as well, because we do see that as being huge potential for long haul trucking, whereas a battery, I mean, you would have no room for payload. So hydrogen absolutely is a huge opportunity for long haul.
Thank you very much. I have a question for all the witnesses. Can we make your statements public? Are you comfortable with making your statement public? Yes, Mr. Albus.
Yeah, a point of order, Madam Chair. I was just hoping to see, because there's many other members that haven't had an opportunity to ask questions.
I know.
Is it possible that we can extend the meeting by half an hour just so we can get another round in?
I have to ask the members. I have to ask the clerk first, who has Zoom after us. Alexander, are we okay for an extension, number one? And number two, if we are, then I'd like to ask the membership. All those.
I've got a meeting I have to get to.
Oh, okay.
I could do a question for each if that's what you want, but
but
Madam
we
Chair,
have,
we don't plan on passing any motions or whatnot.
No,
so quite honestly, it's just ask questions.
Yes, Alexander, yeah. Okay.
So the services in the room are all saying that they can stay half an hour. It really depends the committee how it feels.
Mr. Longfield, you had your chance to ask a question, so whoever is next can, because Mr. Albus is next, and Mr. Baker, Ms. Collins, and Ms. Posey will be 2.5 minutes each. So everybody in agreement, we will be fine then. Yes, Madam Collins, you had your hand up.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I do have a medical appointment, just a flu shot scheduled in about 15 minutes. Is it okay if I switch over to my phone and then I can jump back on for?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Are the witnesses okay to stay for half an hour? I don't see anybody saying no, so we are going to go. So, Mr. Albus, you're next anyway.
I was going to say Mr. Generou was supposed to be next. So,
yeah, but Mr. Generou is not. I can't see him.
I'm here, Madam Chair.
He's in
Where? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had his name down, but I thought there was nobody in the meeting room. Mr. Generou, my apologies. You are next.
I've been waiting patiently here in the room, Madam Chair, so
Okay.
I appreciate it. I have one question for transport department, if we could. You said approximately 60,000 Canadians or Canadian businesses have benefited from the Incentive for Zero Emission Vehicles program, the IZEV program. Can you further break down that number? Of those 60,000, how many Canadians have used this program and how many businesses?
Madam Chair, I'm afraid I don't have that specific piece of information at my fingertips, so we will have to get back to the committee with that.
Okay, I'm just going to ask the clerk to make note of the request that Ms. Collins has made and Mr. Jean has made. Go ahead. Yeah, Mr. Jean, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So would it be safe to say, though, that the majority of those purchases would be for businesses?
No, in fact, there is a limit to how many zero emission vehicle purchases a business can make under the program. It's limited to, I believe it's 10 purchases per year. So there is a limit, and I think it would be safe to say that the majority are to individual Canadians.
So not for, you're indicating that essentially the more individual Canadians are walking into a dealership and buying a zero emission vehicle versus businesses. And I get that there's a 10 limit per business, but that doesn't limit all businesses from going and then purchasing vehicles. Is that correct?
We will get back to the committee with the specific number so that we can confirm that information.
Okay, so obviously the cost is a major deterrent in terms of purchasing a vehicle. That being said, there's also that convenience of the ability to ensure you'll make it from point A to point B, mostly referring to Canadians who live in rural areas. You've addressed a little bit of this, but hoping you can answer the specific question that if the goal is to have everyone driving a zero emission vehicle, what is being done to ensure rural Canadians can conveniently charge their vehicles?
So I believe that question would be for Natural Resources Canada that is administering the infrastructure program. So we are working with all jurisdictions to ensure that we are supporting projects in not only urban centers, but in rural locations as well. Actually, a lot of our coast-to-coast network does cover some rural locations, but we are working with stakeholders and provinces to amplify the availability of the program every time we put out a request for proposals. But it is important to note that the business case in the rural communities where the charging will be very infrequent makes the business case very, very difficult. And we are dependent on the private sector approaching the government to help de-risk those purchases, but we are seeing that it is difficult to get the private sector interested in deploying infrastructure in locations where there just is not going to be large volumes of charging. But we are looking at making changes to the program, making the program more attractive, working with industry to ensure that we are enabling as much as possible rural deployment of infrastructure.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Any time that I have left over, I'll share it with.
You have at least a minute.
Yeah, I'll share that with Mr. Albus.
Mr. Albus?
Great, thank you. I appreciate all our witnesses, the work you do. Regarding the electric vehicle subsidy for consumers, of those 60,000 users, how many purchases were replacing a gas-powered vehicle, and how many were adding another car to their household while keeping the existing emitting vehicle? Do you track that information?
No, I'm afraid, Madam Chair, we do not track that specific information at this point in time.
Have you done any work to see how you might be able to track that kind of information? Kind of important to know for an incentive such as this.
We have certainly looked at conducting some surveys of consumers who have benefited from the program. It's still a fairly new program, so we're still in the early stages, but we certainly are.
Thank you. Mr. Albus will ask you in the next round. Mr. Baker, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you to all the witnesses for being here today, for presenting to us. My first question is around the impediments to zero emission vehicle adoption. So we've talked about a number of them here. I've read about a number of them. Impediments could be things like range of vehicles, performance, reliability, the cost of purchasing the vehicle, the cost of the fuel or the electricity, the cost of maintenance, access to repair and parts. Maybe there are other obstacles. I'm wondering if you could tell me what the most important obstacles are that the most important obstacles to achieving the adoption levels that the government has laid out as targets. So which of those things that I mentioned, or maybe there are others that you would identify, are the most important obstacles to people adopting zero emission vehicles? And I don't know if this question is maybe to Ms. Ryan or to Ms. Nichols. I'm not sure where it's best placed.
I can begin if that is acceptable, Madam Chair.
Yes, it is.
There is general agreement amongst experts that there are about 4 really key barriers that need to be overcome. The first is the affordability barrier, as you mentioned, as zero emission vehicles presently have higher purchase prices compared to ICE vehicles. The second one is related to sufficient supply, as we've touched on several times this afternoon, to make these vehicles in large numbers available to Canadians. The third is around the importance of access to charging and refueling infrastructure to support more zero emission vehicles on the road in all parts of the country. And the fourth is around consumer awareness of zero emission vehicles. So those are really the 4 key barriers that there is quite wide consensus on.
Okay. And so if that's, thank you for that answer. That's very informative. And so as a result of that, is it fair to say that these are the areas where you're focusing your analysis or an evaluation of options to provide the necessary incentives, or these not necessarily incentives necessarily, but where you're trying to, are these the areas where you're trying to identify incentives where that's appropriate and address some of the challenges that you've identified?
Indeed, I think it's safe to say that, as I mentioned earlier, in Budget 2019, $700 million was allocated to addressing many of these areas, the purchase program to address affordability, new funding for infrastructure to address the infrastructure question. So certainly that is certainly where we see most of the analysis that needs to be done.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Recently, I know I used to be a member of the provincial parliament in Ontario prior to being elected federally last year. And one of the things that I know has changed is the government of Ontario's policy with regards to incentives around vehicles, zero emissions vehicles. Ms. Nichols, I think this is directed to you. Could you just quickly describe briefly what the change in that policy has been and what the impact has been of that?
I can't speak specifically to the change in Ontario's policy. I can say that we did see a decrease in the percentage of zero emission vehicle sales in Ontario following that change. But as I mentioned earlier, we have seen those numbers increasing again over the last year, specifically coinciding with the federal incentive purchase program.
Mr. Baker, you got a minute, and I think we've lost his connection. Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I lost. Unfortunately, my connection must have broken off a little bit. I lost what was said in response.
You've got a minute.
Okay, I'll get the answer from the minutes. I think my follow-up question would be, so comment would be the change in Ontario was around a reduction or elimination in incentives for consumers to buy those vehicles. So it's helpful, Ms. Nichols, for you to help us understand what the change has been recently in Ontario in terms of the adoption of zero emissions vehicles. Can you quickly comment in the remaining 40 seconds or so what the cost of reducing emissions is when we talk about zero emissions vehicles relative to other emission reduction opportunities?
A very brief answer.
That's one that's difficult to be brief on, but I can say that we don't necessarily have a specific cost per ton estimate yet for this particular program, again, being that it's fairly new. We do know of the 60,000 vehicles that have been incentivized to date, that will bring reductions of about 207,000 tons per year. And so if you look over the vehicle's lifespan of about 12 years, it's about 2.5 million tons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going into the third round of questioning. And Mr. Albus, you've got 5 minutes. Where's Mr. Albus gone?
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'd just like to pick up where I left off. Does the department track what the average household income of people accessing the subsidy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you can just bear with me, I do have some information on some of the trends of the consumers that have taken advantage of the incentive. About 61% of the purchasers were between the ages of 35 and 59. About 86% of claims were from Canadians living in centres with a population of 30,000 people or more. So we are continuing, as I mentioned earlier, to gather more information on who example is
no
taking
average
advantage
household income. Is that correct? You're not tracking that actively?
We are not actively tracking that at this point in time.
Okay. Are you concerned about the situation where a manufacturer sets a base model just under the threshold price so the purchaser can access the subsidy, then later charge them extra for add-ons, ensuring the taxpayer is essentially underwriting a luxury purchase?
The way that the program has been designed, Madam Chair, is that if a vehicle meets the eligibility criteria that the department has set out, then higher priced trims of that vehicle can also be eligible up to a certain cap. So I'm happy to go through that if the committee wishes.
No, I'd appreciate if you could send the information and know what you are tracking actively. Now, people of less means generally don't buy new vehicles. Are there programs like these programs are really essentially helping people buy new cars? Is there something in place to help people access used ones?
In fact, certainly while the current program does focus on new vehicle sales, we do know that about 60% of vehicles purchased by Canadians are purchased on the secondary market. So there was a commitment in ministerial mandate letters to explore a used zero emission vehicle program. So that is something we are currently exploring, expanding the current program to include.
Okay. What is the total lifetime greenhouse gas emission impact of the average electric vehicle, including their manufacturer? And what is the greenhouse gas reduction impact per taxpayer dollar spent for this subsidy?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, could I please hear the question again?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
What is the total lifetime greenhouse gas emission of an average electric vehicle, including the manufacturing process? And what is the greenhouse gas reduction impact per taxpayer dollar, which is spent on the subsidy?
Madam Chair, I'm not sure I can provide specific numbers today. We might have to follow up on that.
If you could.
I can.
If you could, I appreciate that.
Oh, okay, certainly.
So we actually do know, though, your department has said that the cost per ton of greenhouse gas reduction from the subsidy was almost $900. This is the highest per ton of any government emission reduction program. If the subsidy is expensive and only helping wealthy people buy cars, they're actually going to buy anyway and not resulting in commensurate greenhouse gas reductions. What is the policy justification for this subsidy?
Madam Chair, we have set the eligibility thresholds for eligible vehicles to be within the range that we know Canadians do spend on vehicles at an average level. So that is why the current cap is set at 45,000 for base models for most vehicles and 55,000 for vehicles that seat more than 6 people.
But you don't track household income. You don't track some of these other metrics that we've talked about. Are we not essentially allowing people to subsidize a luxury car purchase? You said before that the base model has workarounds.
Madam Chair, I would just like to clarify that I don't think I mentioned anything about workarounds earlier. What I did say is that for vehicles with the base model, that costs $45,000. Other trims up to a limit of $55,000 are also considered eligible. For vehicles that will accommodate more than 6 people, that base model can go up to $55,000, and then there's a cap for other trims that is set at $60,000.
Yeah, I would say that most people consider 55,000 a luxury vehicle. So
thank you, Mr. Albus. We now go to Mr. Scarpellegia, and you will be my last round because I need to ask the witness to verify that they will like their documents to be made public.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Posey. Thank you for having suggested this study. We can feel that we're doing important work here, work that is very timely with regards to the fight against climate change. I'd like to continue with what Mr. Albus was saying earlier. If I've understood correctly, the subsidy, or the cost of the subsidy, if we look at the reduction of greenhouse gases, that are the consequence of people that are purchasing these vehicles. So it's $900 per ton of reduction. Did I understand this correctly? I'm not sure who can answer. I heard $900 per ton of greenhouse gas emissions reduction. That's correct?
I can just respond that that is not a figure that comes from transport.
Est-ce que c'est le montant?
Yes, but is this what Mr. Albus mentioned? Was that what he said? Yes? Okay. So do you have a different amount, different than this $900? Do you have a figure? I don't know if you're understanding me. I'm trying to understand the cost. The cost per ton of greenhouse gas emissions that are reduced. The cost per ton reduced.
Madam Chair, I assume that question is being directed to me. I would just like to clarify, as mentioned earlier, that there are a number of ways to defining and calculating cost per ton, as I mentioned earlier, because the program is still in its early months, that we have not yet finalized what that cost per ton is. I can say that of the 60,000 vehicles incentivized to date, that our estimates are that they have brought reductions of about 207,000 tons per year and about 2.5 million tons over their lifespan. Also about the average reduction that is brought by a zero emission vehicle on the road is about 3.5 tons over its lifetime.
Okay. Et puis en bout de ligne,
So at the end of the line, when we're talking about reaching our objective of replacing all the vehicles, all the gas-powered vehicles in 2040, do you have an idea by how much we will have reduced greenhouse gas emissions if we do reach this objective? If we look at the total amount of emissions in Canada, if we talk about a percentage, for example, I don't need exact figures, but more or less. I would answer. Yes. So we know that passenger vehicles in Canada are responsible for about 83 megatons of emissions of greenhouse gases a year. So we're going to eliminate the 83 megatons. This is going to disappear. Well, there won't be. Okay, thank you. As for the charging stations, so all the charging stations that are being installed throughout Canada are electric charging stations, correct? Or are there some that provide other sources of energy, clean energy such as hydrogen? Are we talking only about electric charging stations, or are there different kinds?
Ms. Vieira?
Yeah, yes, I think
yeah,
so.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we are incenting the installation of electric vehicle chargers, fast chargers, and level 2 chargers as well as hydrogen stations and natural gas stations along key freight corridors.
And so natural gas, hydrogen, and electricity are really what we're talking about. But when it comes to passenger vehicles, the major source of would be electric charging stations. because you seem to mention that hydrogen and natural gas are more useful for freight vehicles. Is that correct?
That's correct. For light duty vehicles, it would be predominantly electric vehicle charging, although hydrogen stations are being deployed in metropolitan centers, for example, in Montreal, in Quebec City, in Vancouver, where original vehicle manufacturers are also deploying some hydrogen fleets.
Okay, thank you very much. And I thank the witnesses, and I repeat the question I asked. Can we make your opening statements public to all the witnesses that are here?
Natural
Yes?
Resource Canada says yes.
Yeah, natural resource. Alexander, you're making a note. How about Department of Environment?
Yes, that's fine.
Yes. Department of Transport? Yes.
Yes, no concerns.
And Department of Industry?
Oui, Madame la Présidente.
Yes, Madam Chair.
That question. And so that's that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madame la
yes,
Présidente.
yes,
Point of order. Did we not pass a motion where the Bloc and the NDP were supposed to get their turns in between the Conservative and Liberal second rounds? Is that not correct?
Actually, I have just I only print what the clerk gives me, and that printing is the first round, the second round, you got your 2.5 minutes, and the third round, you were supposed to get your 2.5 minutes, but we extended the time, and I needed to do some committee business. I mean, not committee business. I had to clarify, and you won't be able to ask the question because the interpreters say they would not be able to translate if you are not.
Can we try for 5 minutes? Maybe let her.
Oui, mais moi, je suis pas sur un téléphone.
I'm not on a phone.
Madame Collins, if nobody complains about no translation, I'll give it to you as well. So, Madame Jose,
Okay.
Jose.
Merci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is why I turned on my mic for the same reason. So my questions would be asked of Mrs. Irwin. I would like to know if the Strategic Fund for Innovation, do we have conditions that are linked to the subsidies for the automobile industry? I asked the question. I'm going to start up again. I hope it doesn't cut into my time. For the Strategic Fund for Innovation, are there conditions linked to the subsidies given to the automobile industry?
Thank you for the question, Madame Posé. With respect to the Strategic Innovation Fund, there's a series of criteria that are applied, whether it be for an automotive company that applies through the program or others, setting out sort of the economic benefits, the risk, societal benefits, etc. Certainly, I should be able to, if you wish, to give you a more detailed list as to what the criteria are for companies in making an application and being successful.
Excusez, je vais...
Hang on. I'm going to interrupt you. Here's a more specific question. Is there an eco accountability part? Do people have to be accountable with regards to the ecology to show if they're efficient? Is there an accountability?
That information directly at hand right now, but certainly I would be more than willing to respond to the committee and to your question on that.
J'en poserai une autre.
Yes, I have another question as well on the Strategic Innovation Fund. Are there some things that are dedicated to train industry workers, to train them in technical skills that are different to produce zero-emission vehicles?
Have a direct stream related to skills retraining and those sorts of things. The streams that are within the fund relate to research and development, one that's facilitating growth and expansion of firms in Canada, retaining and attracting large investments, projects that advance industrial research, development, and technology demonstration, as well as large-scale national ecosystems. In short, the program has an industry sector focus, and that's across a number of industries, of which the automotive sector is one that is a strong participant in the program.
Thank you very much. Madame Collins, if the interpreter can't hear you, then you can give me your questions and I'll ask on your behalf. We'll have to be creative. Your turn, Madame Collins.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And can the translators translate?
Je ne sais pas.
Okay.
Translators, can you hear her?
Yes, I do.
Oui? No? Parlez.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry, speak.
Wonderful. I just wanted to go back to my question about the Canada Environmental Protection Act. And specifically, I'm wondering if ECC wouldn't mind forwarding some written information about the 6 regulations under CEPA that have to do with this electric vehicle emission targeting. And additionally, just any reports or any work that's being done or plans to develop regulations under CEPA that require automakers to achieve Canada's sales targets.
Hi, Madam Chair. So in the written material that I provided for my opening statements, I included the links to our regulation as well as the links to our annual report. And if I'm not mistaken, I also included the links to the work being done on the midterm evaluation. And I'll look to see if there's any further documentation that we might have.
Wonderful. And in that, I believe the 6 regulations under CEPA may have been mentioned, but just wondering, specifically about the plans to develop or any work that's been done around regulations requiring automakers to achieve the targets. And then next question is just around following up on Madame Pose's question and Mr. Sani's question, that despite the growing demand for electric vehicles, we're still seeing the number accessible at dealerships decreasing, or at least they were in the past few years, and that 70% of the dealerships in Canada didn't have a single EV available for purchase, and then the vast majority of them cited wait times of 3 to 6 months before someone could actually drive it off the lot. And so just wondering, in terms of dealing with some of those accessibility issues, and specifically wondering if you can speak to the specific instruments that the government is employing to ensure that there's EVs available without long waits.
Quick answer. Who is answering? Madame Collins, who had you targeted, and whoever it is got frozen?
I believe this would be either Transport Canada or Natural Resources, but whichever they think would best answer.
Could Transport Canada give a 30-second answer, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. I would just say, to build on previous answers, that again, despite the low inventory of models across Canada, we still have seen some good uptake. However, we do recognize that limited supply continues to be a barrier to greater uptake of these vehicles, and to that end, we are continuing with the other departments to assess additional measures that we will need to consider to put Canada on track to meet its sales target.
Thank you, committee members. Thank you, witnesses.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I do know Mr. Scarpelleggia sought the same answers that I did in regards to it. BlackRock's reporter actually had a story where their math was 207K tons per year at a cost of $186 million in rebates is where the $900 per ton comes from. And Transport Canada has not yet answered if they have their own. Could Transport Canada supply the committee? Because Mr. Scarpelleggia, I believe, deserves an answer.
I think the clerk has taken note of every request you guys have made, and will send the requests over to the respective departments. So thank you.
Will that be included?
Yeah. Here he's taken Remember, the clerks are very good at listening to everyone and making notes quickly. So
I
thank
hope
you.
Ms. Nichols is paying attention too. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Oh, don't worry. Ms. Nichols will get that request from the clerk. Thank you very much. Thank you for staying half an hour. We always get, Mondays are always a bad day. We seem to end up having votes. Thank you to the witnesses for coming in early. And we hope that every witness comes with the right headgear from now onwards. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Au revoir tout le monde. Au revoir.